Villa Lilly, or the Beer King. German-American Saga. Our story begins in Bad Schwalbach on the slopes of the Taunus Mountains, whose healthful springs were known and appreciated already back in the times of the Romans. A 100 years ago, the whole world used to come here to take the waters, emperors, kings, state ministers, diplomats, and the new rulers of the realm of industry. Our story begins in the treasure chambers of the local history archive of the town of Schwalbach. Pictures of a past and yet irritatingly present life. The archivists have saved her pictures in carefully preserved picture albums, but above all, pictures she memorized in her mind. I see here the picture of the train station at Langenschwalbach, which today is called Bad Schwalbach. This, for me, a dear memory because my parents used to live there. My father was the station master there, and as a child I was a witness of everything that happened at this station. Especially the members of the high society which arrived here at the turn of the century. Among them, Adolphus Busch, who was a king even though he was not an aristocrat. He was called the Beer King of America. He was a very friendly gentleman. He was American, cosmopolitan, and he greeted all those present in a very friendly manner. On the 1st of March, 1911, Adolphus Busch was made honorary citizen of the town of Bad Schwalbach. The German emperor wanted to make him a nobleman, but commercial counselor Adolphus Busch, as a free American, declined this honor. The document pronouncing him an honorary citizen mentions that he is owner of the Villa Lilly Palace. It was not really a palace, although I guess one could call it that. It certainly was like a palace, these two large mansions. In the Villa Lilly, Adolphus Busch's life will come to an end after a fairy tale career.
Einer von Wiesbaden und Umgebung und einer von Mainz mit der Bevölkerung, die eben sich das alles einmal ansehen wollen. Und weil sie auch Kurgäste sind, wenn auch
Two special trains, one from Wiesbaden, one from Mainz, for the population who wanted to take a look at all this.
2000 wie heute, sondern vielleicht 700, 800 Kurgäste, aber alles Privatgäste.
In those days, there was not a single guest at the spa who did not come to the villa, as it was commonly called then.
Die haben dann eine Pferdekosten gemietet, es gab etwa 20, ich weiß was Sie das sagen, an der Zeit. Und in dieser Pferdekosten sind sie dann hochgefahren, sind hochgefahren.
What is still known and told about those glorious days of the Villa Lilly sounds like material for legends. The spa guests of today hear fragments of a remarkable biography. He married Lilly, and together with his father-in-law, he created the largest brewery in the world then and now. And in 1878, Adolphus became the director of the largest brewery in America in St. Louis. He had one son and 5 daughters. And this Adolphus I'm talking about died in 1913 already, and from this time on his son took over the leadership of the brewery. His name was August A. But it was Adolphus who created this estate. In 1891, the American Citizen Bush, like the movie character Citizen Kane, built his own Xanadu in the Taunus Mountains, a symbol made of masonry marking the return of the German Emperor and the German Empire, which had just celebrated its 20th birthday. In the same year, Charles Ives composed this ironic hymn to America, a variation on the German imperial hymn, Hail to the Victor's Wreath. In those days, the old and the new world were still seeing eye to eye, or so it seems, at least as far as the patriotic music was concerned. St. Louis, the gateway to America's formerly wild, but to this day dusty and thirsty West. The center and heart of the American beer empire that was founded by Adolphus Busch. With 32 breweries worldwide, with an annual output of almost 1 billion liters of beer, and with a whole comet's tail of subsidiaries, AB today takes its place among the top 50 U.S. conglomerates. Adolphus Busch a few years before his death. At that time, his own legend had already caught up with him, and his actual biography had already faded behind the myth of this man. Available information about its origins is contradictory. It is certain, however, that he arrived in St. Louis in 1857 on board a Mississippi steamer. Following the first, primarily French, wave of immigration, it is now predominantly Germans who settle in the city in the 19th century. At this time, St. Louis is the starting point for the great trek westwards, but many Germans stay here. Their homeland is kept alive in their language. 3 German daily newspapers are published in St. Louis. After Frenchtown, there is now also a German quarter, Germantown. Even here, the Germans do not have to do without their pubs, their Stammtisch, and their Gemütlichkeit. The German beer gardens have freshly brewed beer on top.
Real smooth, Charlie. Just like Busch beer. How's about you and me having a couple? Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri.
40 German breweries compete to slake the thirst of the immigrants who enter the country in ever larger numbers in their quest for a better and freer life. One of the 6 million nameless Germans who leave their home during the 19th century is Adolphus Busch, the son of a hops and wine dealer from Mainz-Kastel. He starts a business selling brewery equipment and supplies and becomes successful. In 1861, Adolphus Busch marries Lilly Anheuser, the daughter of a brewer owner of German origin, and now enters the beer business for good. He takes over the Bavarian brewery of his father-in-law, Eberhard Anheuser. Busch improves the quality of the beer and reduces the number of brands and expands the brewery. Between 1870 and the turn of the century, the population of the U.S. doubles. During the same period, the beer consumption more than triples. Busch combines his entrepreneurial skill with a keen sense for marketing strategy. His advertising is target group oriented, and he directly addresses the emotional side of his German fellow countrymen who continue to enter the country in great numbers. The brewery uses an advertising poster showing the nostalgic symbol of the Lorelei. Busch travels to Europe on a regular basis in order to stay on top of the progress made in brewery technology, to acquire licenses, and to buy hops in Bohemia. It is there that he finds the trademark for his most famous beer, Budweiser, which he crowns king of the bottled beers.
This Bud's for you, for all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Adolphus Busch is here portrayed as the leading brewer of America, surrounded by his top managers, but as equal among equals. His personal style, however, and the image he projects are truly regal. The eagle and the capital A originally stood for Anheuser and St. Louis. Now they stand for Adolphus Busch and for America. Like a feudal prince, Adolphus Busch travels through every state of the Union in his own luxurious railroad car, a gift of grateful stockholders. With his Baroque personality, he is his own best and advertising agent. Wherever he goes in his railroad car, Adolphus, he is welcomed in grand style. He hands out pocket knives, walking sticks, and watches with his name and his picture as promotional gifts. By the end of the 19th century, AB is the world's largest brewery. Busch has by now become independent of all suppliers. The Busch Company now owns the largest bottle factory in the U.S., refrigerated warehouses, ice plants, a factory for diesel generators, a factory for refrigerated freight cars, distribution network, and also its own railroad company, the Manufacturers Railroad Company, which Adolphus Busch bought because he was dissatisfied with the beer shipping firms. In the hot sun state of Texas, where his cold beer was especially appreciated, Adolphus Busch built himself a monument. In 1912, in the young western city of Dallas, which had oil and money but not much style, he built a hotel which the architects of America celebrated as the most beautiful building west of Venice. Here, Adolphus reserved a grand suite for himself, although he never had a chance to live there. He did not live to see the big oil boom of this city. At what time the tallest building of Dallas, the Adolphus today, is overshadowed by modern skyscrapers. Americans, as a rule, have no historical or sentimental attachment to their buildings. For them, architecture is a mercantile commodity. Buildings are mere objects expected to generate profits. When written off, they are usually torn down after 40 years to make room for taller and more modern buildings. The Hotel Adolphus, however, did not suffer this fate. The rise of this city resembles the rise of Adolphus Busch. When he started building, the city was less than 70 years old, and the spirit of the pioneer era was still alive. Busch continued this tradition as a pioneer of urban civilization. Beer became the beverage of the Wild West. Busch had the corner tower of his hotel designed in the shape of a giant beer bottle. Dallas, the jump from the pioneer times to the industrial age was more abrupt than elsewhere. The skyline of the city kept changing at a rapid pace, and it took only a few years for the formerly tallest building to shrink to the size of a dwarf among the new high-rises. In the everyday life of the modern city, this old building represents an architectural relic. A building that reflects the extraordinary personality of its founder and serves as a monument for two different centuries. With the roots of his soul, he belonged to the 19th century, which is called the European century. But as an industrialist and a modern manager, he set the stage for the 20th century, the American century. At the zenith of his success, Adolphus Busch is drawn back more and more to his German origins. My dear Major, I have read your letters of November 30th and December 30th with great interest. However, I do miss your report on what has been done in the forest. I want to turn the Linschied forest into a model forest for Germany, which will catch the attention of all forestry experts. It will be an exhibit of all forest plants of practical and simultaneously impressive design. I give you free hand in planting a variety of trees, whatever you think best. But whatever you can do, make sure that a good, wide path is built for me on which I can travel with a wheelchair in case I want to shoot elk. My health is quite good, and Mrs. Busch is also in good health. We are already looking forward to our stay at Villa Lilly in the summer. My best regards to you, your family, and all our friends and acquaintances. Yours, Adolphus Busch. In February 1909, I was born as the daughter of Chief Gardener Major. Our house was built during that year. My father was allowed to have the house built the way he wanted it. This was our house where we lived and where we spent a happy childhood. Across from it were the stables and the garage. The garage was tiled, which was a novelty at the time. Everything was beautiful. We were only two families, the mechanic's family and ours. The mechanic's son says, "This is the house where I grew up." Mr. Busch built it in 1908 for my father. The Busches were very kind people. We were always welcome, not just us children, but my father too. He had a lot of work, supervising 20 workers, and garden and park were kept in beautiful shape at all times. This is the greenhouse, the new one. There is also an old one. Here they grew exotic plants, lemon trees, orange trees, and shrubs. You would find just about everything here. There in front was the palm tree house with all kinds of palm trees. Above all, there was a lot of fruit. Dear Major, we were in the palm tree garden in Frankfurt and found the garden to be very beautiful. Mrs. Bush would like you to travel to Frankfurt, spend a day there, and have a look at all new things they did. Before my departure, I looked at the whole garden again to my great pleasure. There is still a large number of beautiful apples left. Please distribute them as instructed in the past. You yourself may keep all the little apples for canning, etc., and for the use of your family. This is the garage. There were 2 cars of the Bushes and the cars of various guests. That means the garage was usually full with 4 cars, sometimes even 5. There were 2 men who did nothing but wash the cars. In those days, they still had a carbide headlights made of brass. They had to be polished all the time until they sparkled. My dear Major, on April 15th, my chauffeur, Gustav Muntz of Stuttgart, is supposed to start working at the Villa Lilly and to put my 3 cars there into perfect condition. Please make him welcome, help him, and make his stay a pleasant one in every respect. I hope that all work on the new villa has been finished, that everything is in good shape, clean, nothing unpleasant or disruptive, and that everything is ready for the 10th of July when we plan to arrive.
Und dass alles gegen den 10. Juni fix und fertig ist, an welchem Tag wir wahrscheinlich eintreffen werden.
In any case, I will send you a telegram from Bremen to let you know the time of our arrival. I also expect your own work in the park, including the roads, to be complete so that I can fully enjoy the whole of my estate. With best regards for your whole family and all those at Villa Lilly, yours, Adolphus Busch. Over there is the mechanical plant where my father worked. Since there was no electricity available yet, Mr. Bush, I don't remember exactly when, but shortly after 1900, started installing machinery there. There was a diesel generator for generating electricity. That was a novelty. And 2 gasoline generators, because a lot of electricity was used here.
Und 2 Benzinmotoren, auch Stromaggregate, gell? Weil ja doch ziemlich viel Strom verbraucht wurde hier, gell?
The Majors had 5 children, and there were 4 of us. It is said that one time Mr. Bush asked my father, "Tell me, how many children do we have around here?" My father told him 9. "Well, Wilhelm, I guess in that case I'll have to build a school." Gardener's daughter, we lived here in a little paradise for children. We were allowed to play with the children of the Bushes, were even invited to join them at the dining table. After lunch, we all got candy, and no distinction was made between us and the Bushes' children. One of Adolphus Busch's granddaughters later wrote in her memories about the Villa Lilly. How can I describe this most beautiful of all places where we were so happy as children? When we arrived, the elk were gathered at the fence of the game park as if they wanted to welcome us. The endless little trails in the forest, the tea house on the hill. The greenhouses with the most beautiful flowers, which I love so much, where the most magnificent begonias were growing.
Im Wald stehen alle Märchen der Brüder Grimm.
And imagine, deep in the woods, there were all the fairy tales of the Grimm brothers. There was Little Red Riding Hood with her basket. One hand was always holding fresh-cut flowers. We children always stayed at the Villa Claire, named after my father's sister. From my room, we could see the elk and the fairy tale forest. I was completely happy there and still dream of the villa today. I belong to the group of people who came to this house by accident about 10 years ago. We did a lot of restoration work at that time because the house was falling apart and was scheduled to be torn down. We use it partly for ourselves, partly with friends. There are also 3 teachers in this group who sometimes bring their classes here on trips. I myself have brought my class here for the 3rd time now. One of the reasons being that this is the cheapest place we can find for the children, many of whom cannot afford the 300 to 400 German marks that a regular class trip costs nowadays.
Jetzt wird er noch einer spülen können. Also vorher in der Schule, wir machen alles, wir wollen nur fahren. Wir machen alles, wir brauchen uns gar nicht um nichts zu kümmern. Ne?
Bush's granddaughter. We always took our meals with the grandparents who lived in the Villa Lilly. It was a rare occasion when fewer than 18 or 20 adults were gathered at the big dining table. After lunch, the adults always went hunting. The hunting carriage pulled up in front with the driver Gross and the forester Degenhardt, with a beard like that of the Emperor Franz Joseph sitting in front. Even today, I am thinking back with great longing to the days of my childhood and youth that I spent at Villa Lilly. For me, Richard Wagner and the Brothers Grimm will always be the greatest. On September 9th, 1913, Adolphus Busch sends a letter to his gardener. The letter contains the last instructions of the beer king to his highly respected gardener. Chief Gardener Major, now that it is getting dark so early in the evening, please see to it that all necessary safety precautions are taken. Please try to have one of your men walk through the park opposite the Villa Lilly and close it at 5 o'clock.
Und um 5 Uhr zu schließen.
Then the night guard should go on duty at 7. At 6, send one of your best young men through the park to make sure that nobody is there anymore and that all gates are closed, and to close the main gate after the hunting carriage has returned. The night guard should report to Philip every morning if one of the maids comes in after curfew. It would probably be best if we did not let them in after 11 o'clock unless they have special permission to stay out late. If everyone does his duty, nothing unpleasant will happen that might disturb my stay. Now then, the best of luck. Yours, Adolphus Busch.
Ihr Adolphus Busch.
Herr Busch ist am 10. Oktober 1913 auf der Villa Lilly gestorben.
Mechanic's son. On October 10th, 1913, Mr. Busch died at Villa Lilly. The body was embalmed by 3 professors and then taken to the railroad station in a decorated carriage. From there it was taken by train to Bremerhaven and then by ship to America.
Nach Bremerhaven und von dort bei Schiff nach Amerika.
St. Louis headline, 10/23/1913. Busch remains returned home, lying in state at Busch Place No. 1. Yesterday, August A. Busch and other members of the family arrived in St. Louis with the casket of Adolphus Busch, who had died on October 10th in the land of his birth. The special train from New York stopped at the front entrance of his residence, from where the Beer King had set out so many times to go on a successful business trip with his special railroad car. Hundreds of people had ignored the rain, waiting for hours for the arrival of train. By noon today, more than 20,000 citizens had filed past the casket, paying their last respects and taking a last look at the deceased. The private memorial service will be held tomorrow. Afterwards, the funeral will take place at Bellefontaine Cemetery.
Anschließend wird dann der Sarg auf dem Bellefontaine-Friedhof beigesetzt.
Front page, 10/25/1913. Headline, Farewell to Adolphus Busch, Memorial Service at Busch Place No. 1. Secretary of Trade Nagel calls the industrialist a giant among men. Workers want to carry their dead master through entire brewery. A delegation of the 6,000 brewery workers gets their wish to carry their dead master through the entire brewery one last time, just as he had paid a daily visit to all departments when he was alive, greeting many of his workers by name. The most distinguished address in St. Louis was and is the residence of the Prince Busch, as President Taft called the deceased when he visited there. Guests at his residence included prominent artists. Famous Wagner singers gave recitals here. Sarah Bernhardt was here, and Enrico Caruso would be heard here. A representative of the German emperor attended the memorial service, presenting a personal message from Emperor William II. In his eulogy, Secretary of Trade Nagel said, Adolphus Busch was a giant among men. He lived amongst us like a descendant of one of the most powerful gods of antiquity, and guided with his optimism, his far-reaching vision, his courage, and his energy the fate and the progress of mankind. All along the 20-mile route of the funeral procession, the road was lined with people. All of St. Louis was there to say farewell to their most prominent citizen. The streetcars stopped running. All factories halted their production in honor of the man to whom St. Louis owed its fame as the most important beer metropolis of the United States. Nagel. Busch believed in a world progress, and that, way deep down, all people are good. On the foundation of this faith, he built his business and made his decisions. Emperor William honors this great son of Germany with a wreath. Citizen Busch, a citizen of America and one of the uncrowned kings of the New World, surrounded himself with images from the German past, at his final resting place. Kings and glorious knights stand eternal guard at his mausoleum in the cemetery of St. Louis. Adolphus Busch was not only a missionary of beer and of the diesel engine, he was also a representative of German culture and German history. Shortly before his death, he agreed to sponsor an ambitious undertaking, the Germanic Museum on the campus of Harvard University. Busch came, saw, and conquered, a reference to the Latin Veni, Vidi, Vici. It is the mind that builds the body.
Friedrich Schiller.
You can, for you must.
Immanuel Kant.
Kuno Frank, a professor of German, selected the inscriptions for this German national shrine on American soil. This national pathos carries over into the architectural ornaments, the mask of the antique warrior, the imperial eagle.
Der Reichsadler.
Adolphus Busch and his German-born son-in-law provided the money, and the German professor furnished the program for this Germanic dream made of masonry. Its purpose is to give the Germans in America the awareness of their spiritual dignity and to carry the flag of the ideals of the German spirit victoriously into the realm of the English language. The architect for this temple of art Adolphus Busch found in Germany. Germar Bestelmeyer was one of the top architects of his time and came highly recommended as the designer of Germanic National Museum at Nuremberg. The American branch was completed in 1917. Huge plaster casts had made the trip across the Atlantic. The Golden Gate of Freiburg in Saxony. The statues from Naumburg Cathedral. In the words of its curator, Frank, Adolphus Busch's museum became a shining monument of German character and art, most of it acquired through generous donations and the gracious initiative of His Majesty the German Emperor. The official opening, however, was delayed, with the medieval plaster gallery remained in storage because the nations of Europe went to war, and in the end, America also did not stand aside. In the mid-30s, the Busch-Reisinger Museum changed from a pompous showpiece to a sanctuary for German art in exile. The Nazis banned the paintings of German Expressionism from their museums, and they emigrated to America. Max Beckmann was considered degenerate and found a new home at Harvard. Likewise, Emil Nolde or Jawlensky paintings, which as urgent protestations against the culturalism, barbarism of the brown shirts, hold places of honor in Busch's German museum even today. If one is looking for the traces of the founder generation today, archaeological methods come in handy. The founders, the sponsors, and their imperial neo-Germanic superego have been relegated to the basement. The monumental painting of William II, donated in 1909 by Hugo Reisinger, the copy of a portrait of Adolphus Busch created by the Swedish painter Anders Zorn. The original is in St. Louis. Finally, a portrait of Edme Busch Greenough, a daughter of Adolphus Busch, who continued the art sponsor tradition in the second generation. In the meantime, other sponsors are making sure that the American home of German art does not gather dust, among them the Deutsche Lufthansa, which recently donated this Klappek, along with other works of German painters which offer proof that German studios still produce art of international renown, as they did in the past, more than 40 years ago, when Max Beckmann painted his famous actor's triptych while in exile in New York. Today, the formerly banned avant-garde of yesterday is united here with the acclaimed German art of our time. The foundation created by Adolphus Busch and Hugo Reisinger has taken a different course than originally planned. The ostentatious facade in the style of Wilhelminian era has become a Valhalla of exile, the most important museum of German art outside of Germany. Back again to Dallas. By now, Dallas already has its fourth generation of high-rises. During the Belle Epoque, Busch's hotel represented a piece of architectural utopia. Today, this high-rise veteran is a carefully preserved antique. A relic from the founder's days is the golden chandelier which Adolphus Busch had made for the World Exposition of 1904, decorated with a garland of Busch eagles. The building is now owned by a hotel chain which is trying hard to generate a European atmosphere. The Steinway piano is another relic of the glorious days when America associated the capital A with the name of Adolphus Busch and the line of his regal beards.
Eine Reliquie auch der Steinway-Flügel aus glanzvolleren Zeiten, da man in Amerika mit dem großen A noch den Namen von Adolphus Busch und das Bouquet seiner königlichen Biere verband. Ob die schicken jungen Leute und die smarten Manager noch etwas wissen von Adolphus, unter dessen goldenem Leuchter sie zum Candlelight-Dinner rollen, ist für sie Adolphus mehr als nur der Name des ältesten und nach wie vor vornehmsten Hotels von Dallas? Im Adolphus geht es inzwischen fast wie bei feinen Leuten zu. Auf jeden Fall gibt man sich europäisch. Sogar das lebende Inventar stammt aus Frankreich, nicht nur die edlen Weine.
Alors, on devrait peut-être l'intercaler entre la 75 et la 76A, n'est-ce pas? Parce que c'est quand même très important. Bien, alors les prix, ça change, n'est-ce pas? Mais qu'est-ce que vous pensez?
The heart piece, the French room, which Busch had designed, has been completely restored. Here, the first name of the King of Brewers has become a synonym for a regal lifestyle which only a few can afford.
Der Vorname des Brauerkönigs ist hier zum Synonym geworden für königliche Lebensart, die sich indessen nur wenige leisten können.
On le remplacera par le...
The villa after the death of its builder. The money for paying the staff continues to come from America. The willpower which held the small kingdom together can still be felt. The mansions are prepared for new masters to carry on in the old style. Adolphus Busch left behind a number of game rules which are obeyed by all. There was a rumor that Bush left his heart in the villa, literally. Contemporary witnesses say that the body was embalmed for the journey to America, but they also say, whispering in confidence, that the heart had been removed from the body and has been interred in the park. One more legend about Adolphus Busch. But now something happens that Busch did not anticipate. The World War drives a wedge between America and Germany, dividing the family. The sons-in-law living in the States take the side of the Western Allies, while in Germany, his son-in-law Baron von Gontard fights for his emperor as an arms manufacturer. Lilly Busch, too, is drawn into the maelstrom of these events. Her 70th birthday coincides with the outbreak of the war almost to the day. In the mansion of her daughter on the banks of the Wannsee Lake in Berlin, a field hospital is established and she helps there as a nurse. But she still keeps an eye on the Villa Lilly, which is now all hers. She writes to the gardener, "Dear Mr. Major, I would like to ask you now to plant the following in the forest: wild roses, heather, wild wine, sunflowers, mountain ash, gorge, and juniper. I hear that the two mansions are now closed. The fall colors must be magnificent there. I hope Philip is well again and that he knows by now where his poor son is buried. I will stay a while longer here with Mrs. Schar, where it is very beautiful. Best regards to you and your family. Yours, Mrs. Busch." 5 years were to pass before Lilly Busch was able to return to America. In the little village of Lindscheid, approximately 1 kilometer from the villa, we will try to find out what happened or did not happen at the Villa Lilly in the time after World War I, because there are long periods of waiting for the distinguished owners from America. The daughter of the chief gardener and the son of the mechanic, last witnesses for the history of Villa Lilly. For decades, their families play the role of a skeleton crew for the estate. Along with Lilly Busch, the Old Glory returns one more time in 1921. I worked for 4 years as a chambermaid at the Villa Lilly. The Busches came in May, and we cleaned the house during the 4 weeks before their arrival. After all, these were 2 large mansions. Free time was unknown at that time, but we had so much fun working there during the summer that we were happy there. There were 3 chambermaids, 1 houseboy, and a second servant. The first servant came from America. All people around the estate were happy when the Busches arrived. After all, a lot of money was spent here. They brought nothing but the best, and they always brought along gifts. It was all very nice. Then, when there were many school classes that visited the park, and we often heard the comment, "You live here like in paradise." The Villa Lilly was very well known. There were also prominent guests. For example, several Hohenzollern princes. I seem to remember that Prince Adalbert was there, and I believe Prince Oscar was here too. Prince August Wilhelm was here several times. He painted pictures for Mama Busch, roses and things. Mr. Sommer, I found something that I'd like to show you. Yes. A.Y. Prince August Wilhelm. I believe that hung on the wall. Would you show it to the camera?
Und das Foto dazu?
Is that right?
Ja. Und da steht auch
And it says here Villa Lilly, August 7th, 1922.
Ja.
That's right. That was after the war when they all came. They had no reason to do so before the war, and afterwards they were glad when they found a decent place to stay. With Mama Bush? Yes. The princes also called her Mama? That's right.
Die Mama, ja.
Ein guter Stern gab dir mit aus der Welt, das Mutter hält, das du dir hältst.
The biggest events at Villa Lilly were Lily Bush's birthdays. Famous tenors sang at the villa, choirs, brass bands, local dance group performed for her in front of the villa. Well, we danced then, and she was the director of the Youth's Association, and sometimes we got pretty wild. So we danced and played guitar. She liked those folk songs. You must sing the nice song of the Schwalbach dialect, recites the lyrics. She really loved this song. You must sing the nice song of the Schwalbach dialect. That was the ultimate.
Und gesungen haben wir auch, also Sie haben gern so diese Volkslieder.
Ja, oder wir müssen singen das schöne Lied von Schwalbacher Dialekt. Ja.
Welches war das?
Mädel, putz dich, wasch dich, kenn dich schön, wir wollen heute tanzen gehen. Ja, das hat sie so geliebt. Oh, wir müssen singen das schöne Lied von der Schwalbacher Dialekt. Das war die Krönung.
On Lily's 80th birthday, family members from all parts of the world came together one more time at Bad Schwalbach. Granddaughter Alice, who's Pummi, remembers. We followed her again, as we did so often as children and adolescents, this time in order to celebrate her 80th birthday with her. We, the family, what magic and power lies in this word, gathered in the beautiful forest. The festivities began already on the eve of her birthday, when the clan, at least 50 people, came together at the villa in happy anticipation of the event. What pleasure to once again see uncles, aunts, cousins, and to be riding together like in the old days with spouses and all the others, to go horseback riding, to hunt, to play tennis, to see how big the playmates of yesteryear, the majors and summer's children, had grown. Late in the evening, the men of Schwalbach came marching, at least 100 of them, carrying flaming torches and singing songs. Nobody had paid them to do so. They came because they loved this woman, and she, much advanced in years, shook the hand of each one with shining eyes and her head held high. I could not stop my tears, and in the evening, then the big banquet. Countless courses, wines, speeches. I enjoyed every single one of them. Prince Adalbert, the son of the former emperor, was also present and gave a charming speech. And finally, after the banquet, fireworks that rivaled those of Paris on the 14th of July, Bastille Day. My cousins had planned a very special surprise for grandmother.
Besondere Überraschung für die Großmutter ausgedacht.
The villa is turned into a movie theater. The birthday present from her grandsons is a private screening of Siegfried's Death, the Fritz Lang movie that premiered in the same year. For Lilly, who often used to go on pilgrimage to Bayreuth, this was to be the last spectacular event. From now on, festivities became less frequent, although Lilly came back to the Taunus Mountains 3 more times. 1 year before her death, a figure appeared among her staff that marks the transition from the old to the new, the infamous brown shirt era. The course of a typically German career can be traced in the family album of the Peters family, Fritz Peters, son of the famous German colonel pioneer in East Africa. Mr. Peters, looking through the photo album. This is 1924 when Father first came to the Villa Lilly. And here is where the whole story starts. Here in Berlin, he was in the infantry training battalion and then was posted to the Staff Guards, which is similar to the Honor Guard company they have in Bonn these days. This must have been some kind of precursor. After the Staff Guard, he joined the 1st Guards Regiment. Later, he was also mobilized with the 1st Guards Regiment and fought with it during the war in France. After the war, he accompanied the emperor into exile. My father was highly decorated. He had 18 major decorations, and it may be that this is why he was selected by the emperor to follow him into exile in Doorn, the Netherlands, where he was given the assignment to care of security, here with the emperor chopping wood. He stayed with the emperor in exile until 1927. In 1927, the empress died and the court was scaled down in size. My father left too, and with the help of General von Gontard, the mentor of the emperor's sons and Paul von Gontard's brother, Arms and Munitions Factory Munich, who in turn was married to a daughter of Busch. Through his recommendation, he came to Villa Lilly in 1927.
Mit Busch verheiratet war, mit einer Tochter von Busch. Und durch diese Vermittlung kam auf die Villa Lilly 1927.
These pictures are already taken at Villa Lilly. Yes, Adolphus Busch. Christmas greetings. The Villa Lilly was owned by a community of heirs. Until the end, this was called the Busch Community of Heirs. According to this, Mrs. Greenough was only a co-heir. It seems that within the community of heirs, she assumed a dominant role regarding the Villa Lilly. I don't know why she took a greater interest in the Villa Lilly or whether the other heirs took a back seat. There must have been family disputes, I believe. It is said that she felt herself threatened at one time. Mrs. Greenough was the one who brought my father here. She was the actual employer of my father. My father came to the Villa Lilly in the capacity of hunter, or rather forester. Some party at the Villa Lilly. Here are the fairy tale woods. See?
Festlichkeit auf der Villa Lilly. Und hier der Märchenwald. Das ist eine Märchenfigur hier, gell?
And, Mrs. Greenough, you said Lilly was a very elegant lady? Yes, very. She had 30 wigs. A suitcase full of wigs. We combed and took care of them frequently. You told us about this funny scene in town. Oh, yes. I was on my way with my bag to do somebody's hair, and she stopped the car and said, "You must come to the villa." I said, "Madam, I am sorry, I can't come. I have to work." And she says, "What? Work? You don't have to work. You must come up to the villa with me." I replied that this was impossible, and she said, "I'm sorry about that, but you must soon sing again." Along with my father, there must have been a change at the Villa Lilly. Everything changed a bit. They also replaced the furniture, as far as I know. Here is a photograph. This must be de Genhardt, the forester who is standing here in front of the Villa Edmy. That means that it was possibly renamed by Edmy Greenough, who wrote this card. Best regards, Edmy Greenough. There must have been a change. Many of the old and long-serving employees at Villa Lilly did not like my father, as far as I know, like the gardener major. Later on, they had a friendly relationship, but in the beginning, it must have been different. Oh yes, here is the Stahlhelm uniform. The Stahlhelm was a conservative veterans association, and my father is already wearing the Nazi swastika. My father was a Stahlhelm member and later also became a member of the Nazi Party, I believe even before 1933. I danced with Mrs. Greenough, and I had no idea where to put my hand because everything was bare. Her back was bare down to here. I really didn't know where to put my hand. I mean, I was not shocked. I saw a lot of it in my business, but this was really not easy.
Aber es war schon gar nicht so einfach da auf welchen Kersmeier.
Her home was in New York, where she lived in the Waldorf Astoria and at the St. Regis during the summer. Several times she was here in Germany and even in this area, but she did not sleep at the Villa Lilly, did not use the Villa Lilly at all. She went hunting, came out on occasion when riding, but she stayed in the Duke of Nassau in Bad Schwalbach or in a first-class hotel here in Wiesbaden. In the late 30s, this pretty much stopped. She only came very infrequently. This is father during the Second World War as captain or first lieutenant.
Oberleutnant oder Hauptmann war er schon.
Und was war hier?
Tja, das hat man rausgenommen. Da ist Blackout.
Photographs of the villa from this period can be found in the illustrated weeklies of the Third Reich. The mansions in the park now carry the name Artel Home for Mothers and became an institution of the National Socialist People's Welfare Organization. And again, there are rumors about the villa. At times we were asked not to enter certain areas of the park. It was a bit strange at times. Children were living in the old villa and apparently had been brought here by Lebensborn program from Wiesbaden or elsewhere.
Offensichtlich hier von dem Lebensborn von Wiesbaden oder war hierher gebracht worden und die aber.
But the children died very soon. There were always caskets standing in the coachman's room. They waited until there were about 6 caskets or so, then took them to the Linchen cemetery. After the war, the Americans came. First, there were soldiers who went hunting at Villa Lilly. These photos here show hunting parties consisting of soldiers, civilians, and on occasion they included generals. I remember General Douglas.
Aber das ist dann wahlweise, ich setze die Yacht gesellschaftlich dann zusammen aus Soldaten, Zivilpersonen und dann verschiedentlich auch Generäle dabei. General Douglas erinnere ich mich noch dran. Und ja, da haben wir hier.
This is Mr. Debo,
Das ist der Mr. de Goff.
who married a German woman from Bad Schwalbach.
Aus Bad Schwalbach. Und,
He must have been CIA or something like that. Security service.
Sicherheitsdienst.
He usually wore civilian clothes.
Das ist Haus Schwalbach.
This is Haus Schwalbach, meeting place for people from all professions, the gathering point for men and women of all parties and denominations.
Glauben Sie nicht auch, dass man in dieser schönen Umgebung viel leichter ein menschlich verbindendes Gespräch führen kann? Eine allgemeine Vorstellung macht die Anwesenden miteinander bekannt. Und dann verteilen sich die Arbeitsgruppen auf die einzelnen Räume. Katheder und Bänke werden Sie hier nicht finden. Aber auf einige schulmäßige Vorbereitungen kann natürlich nicht verzichtet werden. Eine saubere Tafel, frische Luft und zweckmäßige Beleuchtung gehören genauso dazu wie die gründliche Beschäftigung mit dem Thema. Auch die Leiterin der Arbeitsgruppe kann nicht alles im Kopf behalten. Wir könnten anfangen. Es ist genau 9 Uhr. Aber meine Herren, Pünktlichkeit ist die Voraussetzung für jede Art von Zusammenarbeit.
Es ist ja gerade der Sinn der Diskussion, dass wir lernen, besser miteinander auszukommen. Der Diskussionsleiter muss wie ein Dirigent dafür sorgen, dass sein Diskussionsorchester nicht durch Missklänge gestört wird. Er muss die Trompeten dämpfen, muss der zarten Harfe Gehör verschaffen und er darf auch keine privaten Duette erlauben. Sondern er muss durch eine unauffällige und zurückhaltende Leitung dafür sorgen, dass unter Beteiligung aller Teilnehmer die Diskussion fließt und das Thema wie ein Ball von Stimme zu Stimme weitergegeben wird. Auf keinen Fall darf ein Teilnehmer die Führung an sich reißen und die übrigen nicht zu Worte kommen lassen. Und der Diskussionsleiter soll sich nur dann einschalten, wenn es notwendig ist, das bisher erarbeitete Material zusammenzufassen oder den roten Faden wiederzufinden. Auf keinen Fall soll er versuchen, seine eigene Meinung durchzusetzen, sondern er muss die Diskussion nach den vereinbarten Spielregeln im Gang halten. Ja, nun bitte ich um weitere Erfahrungen. Über den Dauerredner haben wir ja nun gesprochen. Aber welche Schwierigkeiten gibt es noch bei einer Diskussion? Bitte, Herr Bollmann.
This is from a recent tenant. It started with one of us hearing something about a mysterious old large empty Art Nouveau mansion in the Rhine Valley belonging to the state of Hesse, which could be rented for very little money. Word got around very quickly and a group formed with most of its members working for Pardon. It was a satirical magazine popular in the 60s. This then became the main crew of the Villa Claire.
Das war auch dann die Stammbesatzung der Villa Claire.
Pardon slowly went downhill, and one day received an offer to start a new satirical magazine, which was then founded here.
Ein Angebot kam, eine neue Satirezeitschrift zu gründen, und die ist dann dort gegründet worden.
At the long table in the Winter Garden, the first talks were held, the first layouts were prepared, the first issue of Titanic was created at this table in the Winter Garden. Life at Villa Claire was always a bit like living on a sinking ship. There were frequent announcements by the government that it would be closed in 6 months because of plans to build a drug rehabilitation center here. This went on for several years and was the main reason why nobody really wanted to settle down here. Although we all liked it here and created a very pleasant lifestyle for ourselves, working, taking it easy, long walks through the woods, parties on weekends. This house was ideal for big parties. We had parties with 200 people. It was a great time which we all enjoyed.
Und nichts tun, große Spaziergänge in den Wäldern machen und Feste feiern an den Wochenenden. Es war ein Haus, in dem man großartig Feste feiern konnte. Da gab es Feste mit 200 Leuten und die dann alle irgendwo ein Eckchen fanden. Und am nächsten Morgen fand man sich dann verkartet im Wintergarten oder sonst wo wieder und es wurde gefrühstückt und es ging weiter. Also es war eine schöne Zeit, die jeder genossen hat. Und ich habe auch meinen ganzen Monat da vollkommen allein zugebracht und ich zeichnete dieses Buch. Und Nach diesem Monat bin ich wieder in die Stadt zurückgegangen und ich sagte dann zu jemandem, das sei vielleicht der schönste Monat meines Lebens gewesen. Ich war da immer in Hochstimmung. Das Wetter war herrlich und die Vögel sangen und niemand störte einen. Aber irgendwie drückte das dann mit der Zeit doch sehr auf die Stimmung, diese Unsicherheit. Und das Haus wurde auch immer brüchiger und immer morbider und immer häufiger regnete es da zum Dach rein und es gab dann Überschwemmungen und das zusammen mit anderen Dingen, denke ich, mit völlig anderen psychologischen Gründen, dass sich dann natürlich auch Beziehungskisten abspielten, Paare fanden sich, gingen wieder auseinander. Irgendwann fing das dann an, auseinander zu gehen. Die Leute orientierten sich anders. Nicht einer kaufte sich ein Haus in Spanien und der andere, der kaufte sich ein Haus in der Toskana oder in der Romana, glaube ich. Ich habe die Hütte hier im Taunus. Es endete eigentlich in gewisser Weise in der Vereinzelung.
The last chapters of the history of the Villa Lilly are yet to be written. Maybe it will indeed become a drug rehabilitation center. In the meantime, young people from Lindscheid and other villages nearby have taken over the former stables and are taking advantage of the freedom offered by all this empty space. Stables and garages, 2 ramshackle mansions in the park gone to seed, and a damaged marble bust in the pond, photographs and legends. On the other side of the ocean, an industrial conglomerate bearing the name of a young man from Mainz-Kessel. This shows a montage of AB commercials.
And what you drink and everything you do, then you love the taste of beer. And now LA is here for the way you live your life today. Here's the beer you want, LA. Here's the taste you want, LA. For the way you
Anheuser-Busch inszeniert und produziert große Shows rund um ihr weltberühmtes Bier. In eigener Regie mit eigenen Stars. Im Busch-Stadion, mitten in St. Louis, gibt es Großveranstaltungen und Profi-Baseball. Und immer sorgt das firmeneigene TV-Netz dafür, dass in allen Staaten des Mittleren Westens das A mit dem Adler auf den Fernsehschirmen erscheint.
From Anheuser-Busch, St. Louis, Missouri. When you're heading for the mountains, the smoothest route is through the prairie. The Pure Prairie League. It's that time of day when you can say, come on and head for the mountains. You know the best, and it's coming your way. Head for Busch Beer. Reach out, it's here. Come on and head for the mountains. The taste is smooth and it's waiting for you. Head for the mountains. Head for the mountains.
What's left of the Busch saga is an old gentleman with a mustache who shares the space on the clock face with a beauty queen. Thank you for listening. Lotsie Hermann Holton, great-great-granddaughter of Adolphus and Lilly, and happy to share this with you.
Second to none, just say Budweiser, you've said it all. Here comes the king of beer, so lift your glass, let's hear the call. Budweiser beer's the one that's leading the rest. When you say Bud, and Beechwood aging makes it beer at its best. When you say Bud, one taste will tell you, so loud and clear. There's only one Budweiser beer, there's only one Budweiser beer.